people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, and now it's time for our weekend recap. Rhiannon Dixon versus Vicky Wilkinson, a battle of the unbeatens in the women's lightweight division. An awkward contest that got off to an awkward start. That's what I expected.
I went with Rhiannon Dixon to win a points decision, and she did one better and actually stopped Vicky Wilkinson in the 6th round in a bout that was scheduled for 10.
Rhiannon Dixon, having never banked a knockout before, I wasn't banking on the fight ending by way of knockout, though I did know she's got power.
It's developing. It's coming along, fight by fight.
She ended this fight by way of knockout, though leading up to it, it was a bit awkward, a bit tense at first. Vicky Wilkinson.
She doesn't have a textbook style.
Not the neatest and not the most pleasing to the eye, though still very awkward. The way she explodes and lunges forward.
Unleashing combinations, uncoordinated combinations, messy ones.
But it does create an awkward situation for the woman opposite the ring. Hard to maintain form against such an awkward fighter, though for the most part, the cleaner
punches were coming from Rhiannon Dixon.
who's only got something like
5,
6 white-collar fights. She doesn't come from a deep amateur background, but she's a natural.
Judging the distance for Rhiannon was a bit difficult at first.
Vicky Wilkinson diving in the way that she does, trying to explode on her opponent to unleash salvos of punches.
It was awkward.
Rhiannon Dixon showing some ring savvy, creating space in those situations. I mean, I had the fight scored for Rhiannon at the time of the knockout, though leading up to it.
It was awkward.
But it was, for the most part, Rhiannon Dixon getting through with clean punches, clean shots, shots that you really didn't have to look too hard to see.
Jab in the straight.
She got through with that a few times leading up to the knockout in the 6th round, though in the 6th round, it wasn't jab in the straight that put Vicky Wilkinson away. It was a right hook to the body.
Rhiannon Dixon got off a jab in a straight.
Did a bit of damage, caused Vicky Wilkinson to retreat, at which point Rhiannon Dixon smelt blood, went in for the kill, started unloading combinations.
Mid-range to inside.
Got some body shots in there, a right hook to the body. I told you guys in the buildup of this fight, it appears that Rhiannon Dixon's money punch, her signature punch, is the right hook upstairs or the right hook downstairs. That's a punch that Rhiannon has a lot of success with, and that punch sent Vicky Wilkinson to the canvas for the first time.
Right hook to the body, and you know what they say about body shots.
In many instances, a fighter can recover from the head punches a bit easier than they can from the body punches.
Nobody likes it to the body.
Vicky Wilkinson didn't. It took her a while to get back on her feet after that initial knockdown. Rhiannon Dixon smelling.
She smelt blood. She knew she had her woman hurt and she could finish her.
Goes in for the kill, continues to dig into Vicky Wilkinson's midsection, gets in with another body shot, another hook downstairs.
Sends her to the canvas again, at which point the referee, he waved it off.
Had seen enough. Stoppage did seem a little bit premature, but you saw what direction the fight was going in. Thus, Rhiannon Dixon not only advances to a professional record of 8 wins, no losses, and no draws, but she's racked up her first pro knockout.
First recorded knockout.
I mean, on paper, Rhiannon Dixon may not seem like the biggest puncher, at least not ahead of this fight, because she had no recorded knockouts. Though if you've actually seen her in action, you'd know there's something on those shots. There's enough on those punches that a sustained attack,
after some good punch picking, a sustained attack could result in a knockout, because Rhiannon Dixon, she's fast and she's sharp.
she's really coming along, and that goes back to what I always tell you guys. There's more to boxing than what you see on paper. Rhiannon Dixon didn't have any recorded knockouts ahead of this fight, but she just banked her very first.
She can punch.
So it just 8 wins, no losses, and no draws with 1 recorded knockout. I don't think Rhiannon Dixon is anywhere near ready to fight for an alphabet title at this weight, least of all where Katie Taylor reigns as this division's undisputed champion. Rhiannon Dixon, she needs more fights. She needs more experience. She needs more rounds in the bank.
She does.
She's had her first fight of this year, and I see no reason why they shouldn't be able to get her back out there 2 more times.
3 if possible. Rhiannon Dixon needs rounds in the bank. She needs as much on-the-job experience as she can get. get.
Right now, activity is what she needs the most to sharpen her up and keep her sharp.
Activity is her best friend.
2 to 3 fights this year has to be the goal against experienced fighters as they gradually step her up to face former champions on the road to becoming one herself. Rhiannon Dixon shows a lot of promise.
She delivered. Congratulations to her for advancing to a professional record of 8 wins, no losses, and no draws, with 1 knockout.
We then go over to Australia for what was the WBO interim title fight between unbeaten Tszyu and former WBC champion Tony Harrison. The prediction stuck.
I went with Tszyu to win by knockout or technical knockout, 9 to 10 rounds.
Let's talk about what we saw. Tony Harrison is your according to Hoyle textbook pure boxer. Stick and move, staying on the outside, trying to keep the other man at arm's length. Getting that jab out there.
Circling away, back against the ropes.
Looking to set the other man up and walk him into shots, walk him into punches. But opposite the ring, Tszyu, it is ill-advised. Tszyu,
He's a pressure fighter. You don't want to sit on the ropes with a pressure fighter.
not all pressure fighters are created equal. There are different methods, different implementation to execute pressure on the man opposite the ring. Some pressure fighters pressure their opponents by way of volume punching, seeking to overwhelm them with activity. Tim,
He's a little bit more poised.
he's a more cerebral pressure fighter than some others. Tim's pressure is all about proximity, his proximity to his opponents.
As he closes in.
Coming forward in a high guard, catching and shooting. Based on proximity, he'll bait his opponent to throw and then counter what they throw.
Kind of like how Canelo Alvarez likes to apply pressure on his opponents.
Doesn't just go out there winging shots, throwing punches for the sake of throwing punches.
Like some other pressure fighters do.
When he does apply pressure, it's all about proximity and getting the other man to open up under pressure. That's the same thing Tszyu does.
This guy under pressure.
Educated when he does it. Very good punch picking, very good shot selection from Tszyu.
Tony couldn't keep him out.
Couldn't keep him off. The dichotomy of the pure boxer versus the pressure fighter oftentimes is similar fight by fight. You're going to have a pure boxer circling away, looking to create space.
You're going to have the pressure fighter looking to close it, close the distance. That's what we saw last night between Tim and Tony.
Tony's getting off that jab, though there's not much coming behind it.
There wasn't.
It wasn't an authoritative jab, or a jab that he was stepping into. Tony Harrison's jab, throughout the course of the fight, for the most part, was little more than just a deterrent.
An empty threat.
Wasn't much coming off of the jab in terms of a straight right hand or a right cross.
Tim and Tony got off to a slow start in the first round. It was a bit hard to separate them because not a lot happened in that round.
Some of you out there might have scored that round for Tony. I didn't. I gave that round to Tim, though all the same.
It was a quiet round.
I gave the second round to Tszyu. He was a bit busier in the second round than he was in the first, consistently applying pressure, catching and shooting, delivering counter shots.
More of the same in the third round, which up until that point was Tszyu's best round. He landed a monster right hand, an overhand right that rattled Tony Harrison's cage.
A right hand over the top that sent him reeling. Looked like Tony Harrison was hurt by the shot. Tszyu started pouring it on. I gave the third round to Tszyu.
In the fourth round, you saw Tony Harrison open up more. In all honesty, you could have given Tony Harrison the fourth.
I didn't, on the premise of Tszyu having home field advantage and still being the ring general, still the one controlling where and when the fight is happening. But you could have given the fourth round to Tony, who was opening up more in the fourth round, getting shots out there, trying to fight Tszyu off. Ultimately, it didn't work.
And I'll tell you the truth, due to a sense of impending doom, knowing how this fight was going to end based on where it was going and how it was going,
You could sense that a knockout wasn't far behind. You could sense that Tszyu
it's only a matter of time.
was only a matter of time, given the lack of output and authoritative punches, meaningful punches coming from Tony, and all the meaningful shots coming from Tim. You could see where this fight was going. So I stopped scoring this thing after 5.
Ahead of the fight, I told you that the pace was going to get to Tony.
Yet another indicator of a fighter's base style is the pace at which they choose to fight a fight. And Tszyu, he fights at a fast pace. He wants to force the action, whereas a fighter like Tony, he wants to slow things down.
Tim won't let him.
He wants to create space and take his time.
Tim won't let him.
Pure boxers being characteristically economic boxers that don't throw very many punches at a time. When you force the pace on them, you in essence wear them out, wear out their gas tank. They tire that much faster because you're forcing them to work. forcing them to either move or fight.
The pure boxer has it their way. It's a more slow and controlled fight.
They want to sharpshoot. They're not accustomed to working at the same pace, firing punches at the same rate as a pressure fighter.
That pace catches up to them.
They caught up to Tony Harrison yesterday. I told you that would happen.
9th round, he gets rattled by a big shot, starts taking a lot of punishment.
You could see that Tony Harrison was out on his feet. He wasn't fighting back. The referee let this one go on far too long.
Tony's corner, too.
He's on those ropes. He's getting hit in the 9th round.
That's what I told you would happen.
So Tszyu remains the unbeaten WBO interim champion. He stays in line to challenge this division's undisputed champion, Jermell Charlo.
Do you think Tszyu is ready for that fight?
Here's what I think, and what I've thought for a long time now. Tszyu is world class. He's a world-class fighter, a quality operator. That's what he is. But stylistically, opposite the ring Jermell Charlo, he would be at a disadvantage.
Tszyu's pressure-based style gives him a tactical edge over a pure boxer like a Tony Harrison, but not over a boxer-puncher like a Jermell Charlo. A strong one. I mean, that's how boxing math breaks down, more or less.
In terms of the base styles of the fighters and which base style gives you a tactical edge over which base style. The pressure fighter has the edge over the pure boxer, and the pure boxer has the edge over the boxer puncher. That is how you can explain Tony Harrison upsetting Jermell Charlo in their initial meeting.
Pure boxers oftentimes have a tactical edge over boxer punchers, and boxer punchers oftentimes have a tactical edge over pressure fighters.
Tactical edge that a pure boxer has over a boxer puncher is a boxer puncher doesn't go out there winging shots and throwing punches for the sake of throwing punches. They set up their shots the same way that a pure boxer would. But because the pure boxer doesn't offer them much,
They're completely defensively minded.
because boxer punchers don't always fight at the same pace as pressure fighters. The pressure a pressure fighter applies is consistent, whereas a boxer puncher,
They want to use their jab, set up their backhand, set up other punches.
pure boxer oftentimes doesn't offer that boxer puncher much to work with. In turn, the boxer puncher,
Versus the pressure fighter?
the advantage that the boxer puncher has over the pressure fighter is the boxer puncher doesn't actually have to go out there and find him the same way he would opposite the ring a pure boxer who's moving away from the action. The pressure fighter is moving towards it, and that plays into the boxer puncher's hands.
Doesn't have to look for the guy.
Pressure fighters are action fighters. They're not afraid to let their hands go. And opposite the ring a pure boxer, that works. Opposite the ring a boxer puncher,
Countering opportunities, that's what you're giving them.
pressure fighters looking for a fight. And they'll find one opposite the ring a boxer puncher because a boxer puncher will assert themselves long before a pure boxer would.
Stand their ground.
And that way, Jermell Charlo, he has a tactical edge over Tszyu, and he is the more experienced fighter in the fight.
Tszyu won't be the first pressure fighter that Jermell Charlo has shared the ring with. He fought Brian Castano 2 times, and by the second time, he figured him out.
He's got those experiences to draw from ahead of what could be a potential Tszyu fight. Jermell gets the edge. As impressed as I am with Tszyu, I don't think he beats that guy.
If they actually do fight, the question is, are they going to fight?
The WBO has given Jermell Charlo approximately 180 days to do the Tszyu fight. If he don't fight Tszyu, the WBO title is forfeit.
He hasn't boxed since May of last year. He's coming off of a hand injury.
Is he really going to go straight into the Tszyu fight under those circumstances? The night of, if they do fight, it will have been over a year's time.
I mean, Jermell may have a tactical edge over Tszyu, but those outlying factors would be working against him.
In any event, if they do fight, I give Jermell the stylistic edge over Tszyu. Makes for a great fight, and let's see if it actually happens. Men's heavyweight news per tweet from Michael Benson. Frank Warren on Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk. It will be the highest grossing event to have ever taken place at Wembley Stadium. And I'm not talking about boxing, I'm talking about a one-off event.
Promoters are going to promote. That's what Frank Warren is doing. He's promoting his show, and I don't blame him. That's his job.
Though whether or not this fight, this pay-per-view, will break records in the United Kingdom has yet to be determined because...
Hasn't it been Tyson Fury? And the Tyson Fury side of things, his faction of fans been the ones downgrading Alexander Usyk, saying that he isn't worth any money.
I think the fight will do well. I think the fight will do well at the gate and well at the box office, though I don't know that this fight will break the standing record for box office buys in the UK that Anthony Joshua holds for the Klitschko fight.
I don't know if this fight is going to sell more pay-per-views than that fight did. We'll see.
Frank has declared that Fury versus Usyk is on for April 29th at Wembley Stadium, subject to contracts being sorted out. Regarding the date, Warren said, at one stage, I wasn't sure whether Tyson would fit for it, but he was okay.
Brutal 15-round session with Joseph Parker and George Lockhart. We're in the gym. We're getting ready to smash Alexander the Bitch Usyk, the gappy-teethed, cat, little ugly bastard. You're getting it. In 6 weeks' time, you're history. And I'll still be the Gypsy King. Come on!
I don't actually expect that Alexander Usyk will spend much time on these grade school call-outs from Tyson Fury. If the fight is going to get made, the fight is going to get made, and that's what's important.
I don't expect Alexander to mince very many words with Tyson Fury.
But there does seem to be a discrepancy as to when exactly the fight is going down. While Frank Warren is saying that the fight is on for April 29th, as previous reports indicated, Top Rank's Bruce Trempler says something else. Top Rank's Bruce Trempler says, Usyk is a hell of a fighting man, and so is Tyson Fury. Looks like things are coming together for June. Thanks to these two warriors for coming to terms and putting it all on the line for the biggest prize in their sport.
So Frank Warren is saying that the fight is on track for April, but for some reason, Top Rank's Bruce Trempler is saying that the fight will go down in June.
When you think about the month of April, there's a whole lot. I mean a whole lot happening in April. Joshua versus Franklin, Joyce versus Zhang.
Garcia versus Davis.
In this pay-per-view between Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury, a transatlantic pay-per-view, a pay-per-view in America and a pay-per-view in the United States. This pay-per-view is supposed to cap off that very busy month.
Tyson Fury just started camp.
It's my understanding that Sugar Hill Stewart, his head coach, his head trainer, he's not even in the UK right now. So it is possible, based on those aforementioned factors, that the top-ranked people and the Queensberry Promotions people might decide to move the fight.
They might.
If they don't, then great. April's going to be an amazing month in the sport of boxing, but April is right around the corner. We're well into the month of March.
The beginning of April is just 2 weeks away. Between now and April 29th, is there really enough time to promote this fight the way you want to promote this fight? And for the fighters, is there really enough time to prepare?
I mean, I think that Alexander Usyk started his preparations for this match some weeks ago, but it seems like Fury's just getting started. So between now and April 29th, is that enough time for him? It's conceivable that they push the fight back a bit. It's conceivable that maybe it does happen in June, the way that Bruce Trempler says it will happen in June.
That wouldn't surprise me.
April is a very busy month in the sport. Ryan Garcia versus Gervonta Davis is supposed to be happening the week before the proposed date for Fury versus Usyk. Those are both box office fights.
Davis versus Garcia is supposed to happen on the 22nd of next month. Fury versus Usyk is supposed to be happening on the 29th. They're just a week apart.
One of these fights caters more to a UK audience, and one of these fights caters more to a US audience. We know which one is which.
But two pay-per-views, two big box office fights happening just a week apart, that is less than ideal, even if they are happening on separate continents.
So we'll see if they don't end up moving this fight. I mean, I don't think Bruce Trempler said that for no reason. He's in the know. He's in the loop. And if he says it might get moved to June, there's reason enough to believe it.
We'll see.